Hey y'all, we're back now, and we're still talking about the passive husband. And right here, we're gonna just talk about, is there any time being the right time to be
Hmm.
passive?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a good question because many times we've asked fellas, you know, why they're passive, what constitutes your passiveness, and the answers are various. And Ronnie will talk a little bit about what men think when it comes down to making a decision whether it's a right time to be passive,
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
there's such a thing. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing, we Cynthia and I was talking off camera, and that's where the question came up: is there ever a right time to be passive? Because sometimes we in counseling and we call it passivity, and a man say, "I'm not being passive. I'm just choosing what I'm going to get involved in."
Mm-hmm.
And based on First Timothy, when it talks about a man managing his
His house.
household, uh, uh, to me, a manager is an overseer,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that yes, your wife may have some good answers and some good things that can provide for the family, but you are the overseer. You're the spearhead. So that
Mm-hmm.
means that you talking back and forth with
That's
her
right.
about what's going on. She's not over on her own and then you over on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, when it comes down to the question, is there ever a right time to be passive? I say no.
Correct.
I say no. That there's never a right time to be passive, because the thing that we have to understand as men is this: if we lay down on the job, something gonna happen.
Yeah, it is.
We gotta put the work in. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I want to say to men is this: there's a lot of work to do. That we should be getting up every single day with our family on our mind, with what God has called us to be as men. Because remember, in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11, he said, "Hey, when I was a child, I thought and reasoned as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things." Responsibility come with as you mature. More responsibility comes. And so
Mm-hmm.
men have to learn to be responsible. And I think what men are doing, and I'm gonna say this strongly, and I may get
Mm-hmm.
some feedback on this, but I'm gonna say this: I think men are using women. I think they use them in the sense of
That's
this:
correct.
that when they find a woman that can do a lot of the stuff
Mm-hmm.
that they know that they should be doing,
Mm-hmm.
they allow them to do that.
They do.
And see, one of the things that you have to understand as a man, God is not giving a woman
Take
the
on all that stuff
capacity to take on all that
emotionally.
emotional, all that
Mm-hmm.
finances, all that children,
That's
all that
correct.
going out
It's a
working
lot.
40 hours. It's a
Mm-hmm.
whole lot. And when you're passive and she comes home and still have to work from working a
Exactly.
40-hour week, that's way too much. That's way too much for a woman to do. And God
It
hasn't given
is.
her. Now, don't misunderstand. Titus tell a woman to look towards her home. But I say this, and I've said it once before, that men, when you got a wife working outside of the home, the stipulations that you put on her for all the things you want her to do, because I've counseled with some men that want their woman to be in line. I'm talking about got
Mm-hmm.
the cooking down, got the cleaning, got the the
Absolutely.
food on the table, and then when 10 o'clock come, ready to make love to them. And
Exactly.
I'm saying that that's way too
It's
much
too
for a woman
much.
when she working outside of that home. Now you may say to yourself, well, she choose to do that. She choose to work outside home. My question to you men is this: can you afford for her to come home?
Mm-hmm.
Can you afford for her to come home? Because that's the key right there. If you can afford financially for your wife to be at home, then the fact is that that's a whole totally different story.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't afford for it, that y'all done stepped into this high class lifestyle and you need her paycheck and
Mm-hmm.
she working outside at home, the expectation that when she come home, you can't put all that weight on you.
I like how Dr. Phil said something on Friday morning. I was looking at a show. One of his shows came on TV1,
Mm-hmm.
and he had this guy on there, and him and his wife was arguing over their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, their wedding. And she wanted to have a real, up to do type of wedding, and he wanted to have an after party, being that they were from Louisiana. He wanted to have the what do you call them things? They eat them,
Bachelor.
crawfish ball.
Oh, okay,
She
okay.
said ain't gonna be no crawfish ball at her wedding. There ain't gonna be no sucking of no heads and all that kind of stuff. And I love that because they put them on TV and they said that, and Dr. Phil said this so very seriously. I loved it. Out of the many things he says, I love that one. He told him, he said, sir, how important is that to you? And he said, real important. He said, are you serious? And he said, yes, I'm serious. It's very important to me. He said, well, then let me tell you something. You ought to put those clothes away right now. Don't even get married. Period. Because that's going to be the way with your life all the way from the wedding day on up, because you will have this problem. He said, now, understand this. What you put in it is what you're going to get out of it. He said, now that's if you got the right woman. If you got the right woman, what you put in her is what she's going to give back. He said, don't even worry about that crab ball. What will you get long term by letting her do that? He said, now think about it like this. He said, this lady's first marriage, wedding, her first one. It ought to be exactly how she wants it. And the guy said, well, what about me? What about my feelings? He said, you don't have any. And if you don't get that right now, you don't need to get married. He started laughing. The guy started laughing. I said to myself, oh my God, because he said something very intricate here. That if you drive your wife, you're going to get nothing out of her. And driving her is in your passivity, not addressing those things to help her in all of the decisions she has to make in a home. I mean, we could go for days just talking about the different decisions we have to make just with our children.
Yeah.
When it comes down to the finances, especially if you ain't a millionaire and money coming in every day. The whole depression from working with a small amount of money is driving. I just can't even tell you. The person who has that checkbook strapped on them has a huge job to keep things together. And I'm telling you, a passive man can kill a marriage. He will kill a marriage because that woman in and of herself cannot be the woman that she needs to be if she got all that stuff on her to do. And that's not how God designed marriage. Marriage is two people working together to make things look the way God has designed it to look. And I'm telling you that today we are suffering in a very serious way of selfishness.
Well, you know why we suffering, Dave. We suffering because we done got away from that Bible.
Yeah, we have.
We done got away from that Bible, and the scriptures say the one that's going to only come and tie in through the scripture. And what we have today is we have two people living in a house, and ain't no one that's happening. So everybody got their own thing
Stuff
that they
going
doing,
on.
and so that's why we suffering that.
And then trying to figure out why we getting what we getting. I don't understand that.
I really don't. Then not on that, when we bring it to their attention what the deal is, because our main thing is get back to that Bible. Hey man, this is a subject we could talk about forever, man. Because I tell you, we got so many people
suffering
really
in this area.
In this thing. We've only hit the tip, and we just try to do what we can to work this thing out. Hey, until we see you next time, where we will continue to talk about this.
We're going to continue to talk about passivity, but I think, Ronnie, what we'll do is we'll turn the tables here, because everybody assumes that it's the man that's passive all the time. That's really not the truth. We have some women who are passive too, and I really want to address that so that we make sure that when we're talking about an issue, we keep it whole. And it's not whole until you get both situations going on. So be with us next time, please.
Thank you. Bye-bye.